states in the wake of Hurricane Helene.
I hear my granny growing up talking about the 1940 flood. Now, this is probably worse than 40 flood.
Tonight, more than 100 are dead and millions are still without power as cleanup continues.
Dry and very warm for the next couple of days. Then we'll be closely watching the Gulf for increasing rain chances.
A body discovered over the weekend has been identified as a prominent Baton Rouge therapist.
It was a physical attack. At the very least, he was bludgeoned.
And while officials investigate, we're looking into his past.
An indictment that hits close to the New Orleans mayor, LaToya Cantrell. Tonight, a timeline of events, including exclusive secret recordings. This is WWL Louisiana News at 10.
An extremely dangerous situation of biblical proportion.
That's what one Tennessee mayor is saying as dramatic videos emerge from those in the path of Helene. Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Devin Bartolotta.
And I'm Charisse Gibson. Not only are those near where the hurricane made landfall cleaning up, but floodwaters have also impacted many to the north.
We'll have much more in a moment, but first we're watching a large area in the Caribbean and Gulf tonight. Luckily for now, it is good news. Let's check in with Chief Meteorologist Chris Franklin. Chris, good news is good. That's good.
Well, good news is there really isn't anything there at the moment. In fact, what we're talking about is kind of this highlighted area of where something may try and develop. It's not as though we're watching this area for the something to form. It's the region where something may try and develop, and that something is down north of Panama. So at the moment, really kind of a loose organization of thunderstorms. Certainly nothing there at the moment. What the models have been sniffing out is something kind of getting drawn up northward from there and trying to organize in the next several days. Models not really aggressive with that happening. Maybe a little bit better organization in the Caribbean. And then notice as it moves into the Gulf, models are just kind of all over the place. In fact, the GFS, which is in red, kind of dissipates it and has several other little centers of low pressure, whereas the Euro in green kind of has this broad area. So neither of the models aggressive with developing anything. And this is also going to next Monday. Right now, what it looks to be is a rainmaker. We'll talk more about it in just a few minutes.
All right, Chris, thank you so much. More than 120 people are now confirmed dead from Helene, and as many as 600 more are unaccounted for as people begin to dig out across Florida, Georgia, the Carolinas, and Tennessee. Helene first cut through Florida with 140-mile-per-hour winds and 15-foot storm surge. About 90% of homes in the town of Keaton Beach in Florida's Big Bend are gone. 13 Floridians died. The storm then cut through Georgia, where 500,000 people are still without power. And then it went to the Carolinas. In fact, the outage map shows almost the exact path of the storm. Meanwhile, in Lake Lure, southeast of Asheville, downstream from where the town of Chimney Rock was swept away, it is packed, look at this, with whole decks, boats, and parts of homes. Much of the damage is concentrated in Asheville, which is still underwater tonight. The White House says more than 3,500 federal response personnel and more than 1,200 search and rescue personnel are deployed. Officials say rebuilding could take years. The city's River Arts District has been devastated with buildings flooded up to their second stories. Access to food and water is still a challenge, and supplies are being airlifted to those stranded. Further north in Washington County, Tennessee, residents were isolated with nearly every bridge out washed away. Residents spent the afternoon clearing their own way out of the only bridge left. President Joe Biden plans to visit the disaster area Wednesday, saying he does not want to divert resources from response efforts.
Well, breaking tonight, police are looking for a person of interest in a tangible homicide investigation. They say the person that you see on your screen was the last known person to have been driving the victim's car. Officials say he sped away from a traffic stop and ran after crashing the car. Yesterday, the body of 69-year-old William Nicholas Abraham was found. Police say the Baton Rouge therapist died from blunt force trauma before being dumped next to the highway. His family now speaking out tonight, seeking answers. Lily Cummings has more on that and Abraham's past.
The family of 69-year-old William Nicholas Abraham is in shock.
No one should take a life but God. No one. He's the only one that can take a life. And for someone to take someone else's life, you're a coward.
On Sunday morning, their brother was found dead in northern Tangipahoa Parish, his body wrapped in a tarp on the side of Highway 51.
I can think of many great books.
The family says he was well known in Baton Rouge and used to appear weekly on WBRZ.
He made a mark on people's lives and helped them be better people.
According to his brothers, he was a Catholic priest for 14 years before becoming a therapist. Now the family is left with memories and questions.
Why, when, how? No, we're all blinded by it, but we'll get answers. We'll get answers.
Law enforcement is still working to confirm a motive. Court records show that Abraham was arrested in 2015. He was accused of inappropriately touching an 11-year-old boy during a therapy session. The records show he was never charged. Tangipahoa Sheriff Gerald Sticker is focused on locating where Abraham died.
We have no inclination at this point as to where this originated. We're exercising all of the avenues, whether it's, cell phone data, license plate recognition.
Once detectives track down that key piece of information, they'll be closer to bringing the family answers.
They found him, and now we just got to get closure. We just got to get closure on the whole thing now.
Lily Cummings, WWL Louisiana.
We did reach out to the East Baton Rouge DA's office to learn more about Abraham's 2015 arrest and why he wasn't charged, but we have not heard back just yet. And again, officials did just release these images of a person of interest in this case. If you know who this is or any other information, you're asked to call Crime Stoppers.
Tonight, we dig deeper into a federal indictment charging a local building inspector with conspiring to commit fraud with New Orleans Mayor LaToya Cantrell.
But Chief Investigative Reporter David Hammer has been exposing these allegations for years now, even obtaining exclusive audio of the mayor. David breaks down how we got to this point.
Friday's federal criminal indictment alleges Randy Farrell and his building inspection company IECI started collecting bribes from unlicensed electricians in 2018 in a scheme to get them permits and approve the safety of hundreds of their jobs on homes and businesses across New Orleans.
The scheme not only involved the alleged improper exchange of monies, but might have affected individual homeowners, might have affected banks who relied on that to make mortgages, might have affected insurance companies who were relying on the safetiness of that sort of work.
The timeline of the alleged scheme is key and leads right to Mayor LaToya Cantrell and her second-in-command, Gilbert Montano. December 2018, Farrell and his business partner, Fouad Ziton, allegedly discuss asking Cantrell to fire Jennifer Cecil, a city official who was investigating Farrell. Farrell allegedly gets Cantrell and Ziton tickets to a Saints game and texts Ziton, "Tell Cantrell just a reminder to can that." January 2019, Farrell allegedly buys Cantrell 17 tickets to the NFC Championship game between the Saints and Rams, worth almost $6,000. The indictment says Farrell then texts Ziton, "Just get Cantrell to get Cecil out, and we will be kings." August 2019, Farrell allegedly pays an $831 bill at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse for Cantrell, Ziton, and others, and directly asked the mayor to fire Cecil. A few days later, we got secret audio of Cantrell meeting with safety and permit staffers. You can hear Farrell's close associate, Chief Building Inspector Larry Chan, complaining about Cecil to the mayor.
So since Jennifer Cecil is the backbone of charging me with things, and the directors, both directors signed off on it, who do I go to if I want to speak to against her?
Do you believe that we have what we need internally to fill leadership gaps should any become open? So like running one stop, that sort of thing.
A few days later, Cecil's boss, Chad Dyer, tells her she's being fired. Farrell sends Ziton a text saying the is gone. September 2019, WWL breaks the story of a sweeping federal criminal probe of safety and permits. 3 days later, at an emergency staff meeting, Larry Chan asks how WWL knew about the meeting.
And it says sources told WWL TV that city inspectors have a mandatory meeting Monday morning to talk about auditing.
Wow. Wow, man, I said, man, we must be famous. It's out there.
December 2019, Farrell then allegedly buys an iPhone for Cantrell worth almost $1,600. Zeton texts Farrell a photo of him with Cantrell and her family at Lakeside Mall, and Farrell texts Zeton to tell Cantrell, Merry Christmas. December 2023. In an exclusive interview, WWL anchor and investigative reporter Katie Moore asked Cantrell about her dealings with Farrell.
I guess, did he ask you to get rid of certain people in the department to make his life easier at any point?
No, I don't do favors I've never had any conversations with anyone, Randy Farrell or anyone else, relative to who I need to put in place in leadership to make it easy for anybody.
But then Friday, the indictment alleges the opposite. It charges Randy Farrell with 25 counts of conspiracy, wire fraud, and honest services fraud. Cantrell, identified as public official 1, is named as an unindicted co-conspirator. David Hammer, WWL Louisiana.
And Farrell's attorney, Rick Simmons, did issue a statement denying these allegations. It says the indictment, quote, sensationalizes statements taken out of context.
It also says that Fuad Zeton, quote, unfortunately had access to Mr. Farrell's credit card. And it adds, quote, allegations of bribery of public official 1 for a luncheon meal and utilization of Saints tickets are too close to the political system.
Less than 2 hours before port workers could go on strike, how that can make prices higher for you.
OC Haley was once a thriving corridor here in Central City, but now experts say it is in danger and the city needs to step in.
More questions and answers at this point with regards to possible tropical development. What we do know is rain chances will be on the increase.
We'll talk a lot about the frustration, but also about what went right in Atlanta in our 4 takeaways.
New Orleans has a lot of history, but some of that history could be in danger. The Louisiana Landmark Society says there are 9 places or issues that the city needs to focus on.
Well, that's because they say these endangered 9 are vital to maintaining the city's infrastructure. Our Whitney Miller takes us to one of those 9.
Aretha Castle Haley, a corridor in the heart of Central City, holds many memories for Dion Haywood.
I remember shopping, my cousins and I, shopping with my grandmother at Venus Gardens, which many people know as Ashe.
Haywood is the executive director of community-based nonprofit Women with a Vision.
And this is also where Women with a Vision started doing outreach in this area.
Recently, the corridor was named an endangered site by the Louisiana Landmark Society. In its brochure, it claims the area from downtown to Jackson Avenue holds several blighted and vacant properties that are slowing economic progress, one of which collapsed earlier this month.
Places like Cafe Reconcile and the Jazz Museum are all coming, but there's still a number of buildings that need to be addressed on that corridor.
The society says 8 other areas need immediate attention. For example, the slaughterhouse on Alamo Street. Citywide, they say the tree canopy has dwindled to 18.5%, blaming a surge in road construction.
Cutting trees down cannot be our first option when it comes to modernization and when it comes to progress.
The society says the city needs to address the list of 9 if it wants to protect the historic fabric of the city.
The city that we know and love in our built environment will no longer be in the form that we know it today.
New Orleans is a beautiful city, but I do feel like we can do so much more.
In New Orleans, Whitney Miller, WWL Louisiana.
And we reached out to the city for comment about the 9 endangered sites. We have not received a response.
Thousands of port workers could soon go on strike, which might affect you. The United States Maritime Alliance and the union that represents its workers still have yet to come to an agreement. That means imports and exports won't move through Louisiana or much of the East Coast. And if the strike lasts longer than a few weeks, your wallet could be impacted.
If the ships don't get unloaded, it doesn't get to the shelves. And if there's fewer products on the shelves, they'll raise the price. That'll decrease the supply, drive up the price.
Bananas is something a lot of people buy at the grocery store, and those come from, South America, other places. So like that, for example, if, that supply goes way down, a price for something like that could go up.
The contract between the two expires at midnight tonight. We will, of course, keep you updated.
Activity out in the eastern and central Atlantic have been heating up, but thankfully nothing close to home right now. A couple of areas, Joyce, which was a tropical storm, then down to a depression, has dissipated. Now, Kirk does look like it will become a major hurricane, thankfully staying out over the open Atlantic waters, as will what is Invest 91. Right now, most model guidance also keeping it kind of following in the wake of Kirk. The next name up would be Leslie after that. If this were to develop into anything, is Milton. Now, right now, the Hurricane Center holding at a 40% chance of development. Now, that is down from what they had been saying this weekend, as the models have really backed off on anything organizing in terms of a depression or a storm. Right now, what we're looking at is there's nothing there. There are some thunderstorms just to the north of Panama, but certainly nothing organized. Now, in the coming days, we'll see what is able, if anything, form in the Western Caribbean. Now, models, at least up to the point of Friday morning, are in pretty good agreement, generally moving toward the Yucatan Channel. Of course, that could change. And then once into the Gulf, does anything form? Now, this is the GFS. Nothing. You see a whole lot of moisture, a lot of rainfall, including rain across the northern Gulf Coast, but nothing that actually organizes. What about the Euro? Again, looking to the north of Panama, there's kind of that tropical wave, nothing really organizing, moving into the Gulf of Mexico by Friday. Here we go into the weekend. Here we go into Monday. Nothing. Now, this one actually would be better because we finally start to see some upper troughing kind of drawing that moisture toward Florida and away out of the Gulf of Mexico. Either way, nothing really organizes. What we're looking at in the short term, in terms of steering, is this upper high. That's going to move the storm generally across the Western Caribbean into the Gulf of Mexico. Once into the Gulf, that wave, one, kind of dissipates, and two, there really is no longer any steering current. So it just kind of sits. What sits is going to be kind of key to the whole forecast. If it's an organized system, it may just meander in the Gulf. If it's nothing, then it's a big rainmaker and not really a big deal. And thankfully, thus far, rainfall totals would be manageable. We're looking at the bulk of the heavy rainfall staying well offshore, a little bit higher, lower Plaquemines Parish, and then a bit lower still as we get further into southeast Louisiana and southern Mississippi. So right now looks to be a rainmaker, and even that doesn't look to be very much. We had kind of this southwesterly or southerly flow over us all day today, kind of kept us under partly sunny skies. Note, though, that this is already starting to move off to the east, and we will be clearing out and more sunshine over the next couple of days. 75 degrees our current reading, with a high today of 87. So we still get warm, but the lower humidity hasn't been all that bad. If you're in the shade, it feels pretty nice. Out in the sunshine, a different story. 70s, some low 80s on the map right now, and dew points have been in the upper 60s and lower 70s. So really, since this weekend, it has been bearable. Maybe not a fall feel just yet, but comfortable, and that will continue through the day tomorrow. But then we'll start to see that humidity along with some of that tropical rainfall headed our way toward the end of the week and start of the weekend. Almost non-existent winds outside at the moment, and we are under clearing skies at the moment as this upper trough, or kind of upper disturbance, is now pushing off to the east. So that'll help to clear us out for the night, and more sunshine during the day tomorrow. May see a few passing clouds at times. This model trying to bring in an isolated sprinkle or two. Really don't see any rain in the forecast for tomorrow or for Wednesday. Different story, though, as we head into Thursday and Friday. And I'll be honest, the confidence beyond the end of the week is low because we just don't know what that little tropical system is going to do. I don't really think the way things are setting up right now for an organized system, but we'll just have to see how much of that rainfall continues. Hopefully it's more the Euro and we start drying out by this weekend and early next week, but certainly by Thursday and Friday, expect our rain chances to increase.
Sponsored by Rouse's Markets, the official supermarket of the Saints.
Yeah, the most frustrating games are the ones you should win and don't. This loss was so frustrating that in his post-game press conference, Saints coach Dennis Allen dropped an F-bomb. He immediately apologized. And I know a football coach dropping an F-bomb is not exactly breaking news, but Dennis Allen tries very hard to be as even keel as possible in his dealings with the media. He's always polite, but his delivery is deadpan, emotionally emotionally neutral and very controlled. But Sunday afternoon, with the cameras rolling, Dennis Allen dropped an inadvertent F-bomb because his Saints were the better team Sunday and the Falcons won the game. So let's start our 4 takeaways with that. The numbers mean nothing. I love the advanced analytics in today's sports. I love trying to find answers in the numbers. So let's use the most basic football numbers. The Saints had more rushing yards Sunday than the Falcons, and more total yards, and way more first downs. They controlled the time of possession. The Saints quarterback played better. They were better on third down, and they were better in the red zone. But you know what? This team won because the Saints lost the turnover battle for the first time this season by gifting 2 touchdowns to the Falcons. Dominating in every statistical category didn't matter. Hence, Dennis Allen's frustration. At number 3, when Younghoe Koo lined up for his 58-yard game-winning field goal, I expected him to make it. Koo is the 4th most accurate kicker in NFL history. Of the 7 most accurate kickers to ever play in the NFL, you know how many of them are kicking right now? Well, it's all 7. Kicking field goals has gotten so exponentially better in the last 5 years or so. A 58-yard field goal used to be rare. I went back 25 years to 1999 just to compare. In that season, NFL teams attempted a little over 5 50-plus yard field goals a week, and those kickers made 48% of them. This year, NFL teams are trying 19 50-yarders a week, and kickers are making 75% of them. A 58-yard game winner is still a big deal. It's just not rare or surprising anymore. At number 2, the loss overshadows a lot of positives. I thought Clint Kubiak's game plan beautifully hid the injuries on the O-line. Without Eric McCoy and Cesar Ruiz, the Saints still ran for 131 yards, and 4 games in, they're 7th in the NFL in rushing offense. And one of those new age stats is called intended air yards, meaning how far you throw the ball upfield. In each of the first 3 weeks, Derek Carr was top 10 in the NFL, but this week he threw significantly shorter passes. The plan, obviously, was to get rid of the ball quickly, and it worked. The Saints were good on third down and good in the red zone. Of course, the offense functioned a lot better when that guy was in, but considering the missing pieces, I thought it was a creative, effective offensive plan. And my number 1 takeaway is the anger is good, and I think it's productive. This is week 4. Nobody ever won a playoff game in September. I know it's 2 losses, but the Saints have proven they're every bit as good as Philadelphia and Atlanta, and there were major doubts about that before the season began. Now, certainly, it gets tougher this coming week on Monday night in Kansas City. The Chiefs have not played great so far this year, but they are 4-0. They know how to win. The Saints have not so far this season, but the last 2 weeks have shown they can be a pretty good team, and now they're angry, which again, I don't think is a bad thing. And that's my 4 takeaways from the frustration in Atlanta.
Pretty out there tonight.
It is.
That's all the news for now. Thank you for watching.
Have a great night. We'll see you right back here tomorrow.
Continue with us and watch free now on the WWL Plus app everywhere you